Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Well, it should come as no shock to anybody out there. Star Wars Outlaws has failed once again. Yes, Ubisoft, with all of their talk to investors about how they were going to give all of these discounts and how the launch on Steam was going to make things so much better, and they were hoping to have some long-term legs on that kind of thing out there and get them a bunch more sales that they needed to, even though there's no way in hell this thing was ever going to get to a sales number that actually considered this game as profitable. And why would it, right? They decided to give you a broken and buggy mess right from the very get-go. I mean, people that paid the $130 to get the early access found out that all of their time spent playing the game immediately turned into absolutely nothing, because the very first patch that they put out to fix some of the broken and buggy mess that this game already was completely and totally bricked their very first playthrough, giving them the ability to not carry on any forward, and they had to restart, essentially wasting all of the hours that they spent and all of the money they spent trying to get early access to that game. And guess what? It's not any better over there on Steam. Not only did they completely and totally concentrate on diversity, inclusion, and equity, they decided to give you a broken and buggy mess of a game, and that's exactly what happens when they concentrate on identity politics over giving you a good quality gameplay and a story that fans are actually going to love. And guess what, Ubisoft? This isn't the first time you've done this. It won't be the last, and you're getting exactly what you deserve with the latest Disastrous dumpster fire, and now the truth is coming out. And that truth cannot be denied anymore, because Star Wars Outlaws fails to hit 2,500 concurrent players in the first weekend on Steam, boys and girls. Yes, it debuted to numbers less than Concord in its first 24 hours, and now it's failed to even hit 2,500 after a weekend when the game was 25% off on every single level that this game was available to purchase on, boys and girls. Yes, any of the lies that Ubisoft tried to convince its investors that this game was actually going to do well and would actually have some kind of legs, and they had hoped for it to continuing the sales to get better, have now been completely and totally squashed. And there is no way in hell that you can deny the fact that this has turned into nothing more than a disastrous dumpster fire for Ubisoft and Star Wars, Disney Star Wars particularly, because this has cost them hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's exactly what they deserve. So we're going to check out this article from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet Montanero. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share it with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the links in the description down below. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Does it surprise you at all that Star Wars Outlaws completely and totally flopped and failed when it came to Steam? Do you believe this is why Ubisoft is trying to get Steam to hide its actual watch numbers and its concurrent player count in order to try to hide their own kind of nonsense? Because yes, Ubisoft has been rumored to do that as well, boys and girls. Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. So from thatparkplace.com, Star Wars Outlaws had a chance to reach new players and pull developer Ubisoft out of the red when it released last week on Steam. It failed. Oh, yes, it did, boys and girls, because there you go. 24-hour peak, 2,492. And the weekend is going to be your highest numbers after initial releases. Just like box offices with movies out there make the majority of their money in their opening weekend, it's the exact same thing with player count, with sales numbers when it comes to video games. That first initial launch is when all your push comes in. After that, unless your movie or video game has incredible word of mouth, which Star Wars Outlaws does not, it is going to flop if you do not get it successful in the first month. And yes, Star Wars Outlaws had a second chance on Steam, and now it is confirmed to be an abysmal failure for a company oh so deserving like Ubisoft. The deeply unpopular Star Wars title failed to draw a massive PC audience, resulting in a concurrent player count in its debut weekend that fell short of 2,500 players. This would be a terrible showing for any AAA title, but it's even worse for a major Star Wars release featuring classic characters like Jabba the Hutt. Outlaws faced a number of problems right away. First, it presented another female-focused Star Wars story to a fan base that has been exhausted by the concept. And after the Star Wars sequel trilogy, The Acolyte, Rogue One, Ahsoka, and Season 3 of The Mandalorian, a lot of Star Wars fans are burnt out on girl power. And why wouldn't we be? We knew from the rumors that we'd heard that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to turn Star Wars into a girls' brand. And it has backfired on them into the sake of billions of dollars that they have lost. And now Ubisoft is included right in that exact same rabble. This is what happens. People are sick and tired of the girl boss nonsense about her being the key to everything, because it's boring, trashy characters that nobody is interested in any way, shape, or form. If someone is perfect, right from the get-go, and they're everything and everybody. Oh, yes, they're wonderful and fabulous, and they're such a girl boss, and they talk down to everybody with a nasty attitude. Nobody is going to be interested in that kind of character, but apparently that's what these acolytes of the cult out there believe is actual empowering women and actually interesting characters. And guess what? It is blown up in their faces every single time. The main character of the game, Kay Vess, was played by Humberly Gonzalez, which is a smoking hot chick. She is gorgeous. I will put her on the thumbnail for you, boys and girls, because they completely and totally uglified her for this game. However, the developers tweaked the actress's appearance, making her less conventionally attractive. Many saw this as intentional virtue signaling on the part of Ubisoft and Lucasfilm. And why wouldn't we? We've seen all of their DEI initiatives exposed. They put it on their websites. They told everybody that that's exactly what they wanted to do. So why wouldn't we assume that's exactly what they're doing? They're uglifying this gorgeous woman in this game just to own the chuds and push back against that evil male gaze. Yeah, how's that worked out for you? Fans worldwide have noted this trend among AAA games, which female characters are deliberately made less attractive while male characters are often over-sexualized. Oh, yes, that's right. Because if they didn't have double standards, the cult would have no standards at all. Tolerance is only a one-way street to them after all. Then there's the fact that the game came from Ubisoft. The French developer had enough of a rough go of things lately, with massive controversy rising from its decision to make a black historical figure the central male protagonist in the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows title instead of a Japanese man. Ubisoft has also come under fire in the past for perceived predatory microtransactions meant to sap every last nickel and dime from its player. I mean, literally, they were asking $130 for a quote-unquote special edition of this game. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate as well. It also didn't help that the game had a disastrous console rollout. Outlaws was incredibly buggy, with game-breaking glitches causing a ton of player frustration. The Ultimate Edition of Outlaws also included early access for players who shelled out the extra money. However, a glitch and subsequent patch caused all early access PlayStation 5 players to lose their save game file, forcing them to start from scratch and negating the early access feature they paid for. Needless to say, that's not the kind of word of mouth you want from the people that were actually willing to shell out $130 for what most of us knew was going to end up being a broken and buggy mess because they concentrated too much on identity politics and their agenda, and these are the results you get every single time. Ubisoft recently admitted that Star Wars Outlaws had been a flop for the company, noting that sales had been softer than anticipated while also touting some positive critical scores. But at the end of the day, all of the shill access media, the legacy media out there, don't account for nothing because the audience score is what matters the most. Star Wars Outlaws has 1,656 Steam players as of this writing. The game is currently listed at 25% off in the Steam store. So even putting it at a discount wasn't enough. And why would it be? Because 25% off is still $40 and $50 in a lot of cases. And with all of the backlash, with all of the negative content, all of the negative word of mouth that's been put out about this game, I mean, even shills for the access media had to come out and correct their scores and actually give this game a fair score on it because it's such a disastrous dumpster fire. And the entire world is saying that. Even the shills out there, the people that are Star Wars absolute pixie dusters for all things that comes out of Disney and anything that comes out of Ubisoft, those fanboys out there, and girls, and probably in some cases as well. After all, we don't want to discriminate around here, now do we? At the end of the day, guess what? It's still a broken and buggy mess. Even if you're totally okay with the uglification of a gorgeous voice actress out there that deserve to be treated with proper respect, even if you're okay with having a strong female character in what should essentially be a Han Solo story, if you're okay with all of that, you know what you're not okay with? Paying $130 for a broken and buggy mess on launch and to have all of your gameplay completely and totally erased by a company who did not take the time, after being warned by fans, after being told by the consumer out there that this game looks broken and buggy and you need to polish it. Well, guess what? They decided to not polish that turd. They pooped it out right onto your PlayStation 5 out there, convinced you to pay $130 for it, and guess what? It was shit. And now Ubisoft's finding out that yes, no matter what you do about this kind of stuff out there, it is still going to cause you nothing more than a disastrous dumpster fire. And the Steam numbers prove that. Star Wars Outlaws is dead, and it will cost Ubisoft hundreds of millions of dollars that they will never recoup and they will never recover from. And guess what? This is what happens when you dance with the devil, because the diversity, inclusion, and equity nonsense that was jam-packed into the Star Wars game that caused them to concentrate on identity politics instead of good quality gameplay and making sure it wasn't a broken and buggy mess is straight from the pits of hell. And guess what, Ubisoft? When you sell your soul to the devil for a modern audience that does not exist, this is exactly what you get. Star Wars Outlaws is dead. It's Ubisoft's fault, and it is now exactly what they deserve. Enjoy this disastrous dumpster fire at your next earnings call. Can't wait to see how you explain this one.